Hi, my name is Jenny Sanchez, and I will be presenting vulnerable populations for Nurse for 40 Community Health Nursing. This is my lucid chart. Here's vulnerability in the middle, and it connects to homelessness, poverty, addiction, violence, life in rural settings, infectious diseases, mental illness, and migrant health. As mentioned, vulnerability means susceptible to physical or emotional attack or harm. All these different risk factors put you at risk for being vulnerable, and in this case, these are the vulnerable populations. We're going to start off with homelessness. For homelessness, they have lack of housing. They aren't able to have a house or an apartment or anything. They can't afford it, so they are homeless. This can also lead to lack of education. They're not able to afford any education. They're not able to go to school, and they also have no access to healthcare. They are homeless. They don't have jobs. They don't have money to actually get any type of healthcare, so that puts them at risk for many things. Then there's also poverty. For poverty, it's low education levels, unemployment, lack of nutrition, and lack of insurance. Sometimes living in poverty doesn't allow everybody to go to school, and that does also fall into low education levels. They don't finish high school, people drop out. Unemployment leads to poverty as well, no jobs, not being able to get a job because of lack of education. And also lack of nutrition. If you don't have the money, you're not going to be able to be buying healthy food. Most likely you'll be buying, the junk food, the cheap food, the only food they can afford. And also lack of health insurance. They're not able to afford any insurance, so that means they're not going to be able to go to doctor visits, hospitals, or checkups, or any preventive measures. For migrant health, lack of access to healthcare, lack of education, lack of insurance, and language barriers. Many of these people also have lack of access to healthcare. They live maybe in rural settings, and they don't have access to healthcare. They're afraid to go. They can't afford it. Lack of education also ties into that. They are not educated on having to go to doctor visits for preventative measures. They don't have insurance, so that also stops them from going to the doctors, and language barriers. They don't know the language, so that makes it harder for them to seek any type of help. We also have addiction. For addiction, childhood trauma, drug abuse, and lack of knowledge. For childhood trauma, that can lead to drug addiction, alcohol addiction later on in life. Lack of knowledge, not knowing what all these drugs and alcohol can do to you later on in life, can also cause addiction. And it's also a risk factor for these people in this population. As for violence, unemployment, poverty, and addiction, unemployment can lead to violence. Sometimes not having a job can be very frustrating, and it can just lead to you outbursting in violent behaviors. Also, poverty, not having enough money, not being able to support your family or yourself, that can lead to violence. And also addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction can result in violence as well. Then life in rural settings, again, no access to healthcare, lack of education, poverty, and lack of health insurance. These areas are really far away from any type of healthcare settings. They're very rare, so they have limited access to healthcare. If they do have a healthcare, they have to drive miles and miles. They don't have any transportation. They also have lower education levels. They're not educated again on preventative measures, on the importance of going to the doctor and getting checkups. And also poverty, not being having enough money to have health insurance, to get transportation to go to your doctor visits. And then infectious diseases, we have frequent travel, lack of vaccines, and lack of hygiene. Frequent travel, traveling to places all over the world. There's different diseases in different cities, different countries, and traveling a lot can make you at risk for getting a disease. Lack of vaccines. A lot of people, there's a lot of speculation about autism being caused by vaccines. So there's people that don't get their vaccines, they travel and end up getting contaminated with these diseases. Also lack of hygiene. not washing your hands. As we know, washing our hands is very important, but in other places when you travel, it's not of importance. There's lack of hygiene. The waters are not healthy, and that also leads to infectious diseases. Then finally we have mental illness. As we know, some mental illness can be genetic, which is something that we can't really do anything about. There's also lack of access to services and delay to seek care. This population, since they are, with mental illnesses, they delay to seek care, sometimes because they're embarrassed, sometimes because they don't know where to seek help. There's lack of education there too, and they delay their need for help and don't end up getting the help that they need, and it just causes worse things. Lack of access to services. There's not mental services everywhere, and that's also something that they lack. All these different populations are very vulnerable, and there's all these risk factors that lead them to that, and unfortunately there's some we can do something about, and there's some that we can't. Here is a list of all my references, and that's it. Thank you for watching.